To work in sport, I thought I'd either have to be a professional athlete, a physio, a coach, or work at JD Sports. I'm really wanting to kind of lift the lid on what that sports industry is and to educate people. And sport is for everybody. It's
Max Whitlock, Helen Glover, Emily Campbell, Andrea Spindoloni, Siriex, the list goes on. Today's guest is Hugo Jafari, founder of Ignite Sports Management, and today he takes us through his journey from talent manager all the way through to founder of one of the UK's leading talent agencies.
I remember speaking to my wife and saying, is this the right time to go? Got brilliant offers here, real stability, working with global icons, the flashing lights up here, like I made it. Or I can take this leap of faith.
In today's episode, you'll learn how to break into the world of sports.
Getting into the sports market was quite hard because everyone wants 6 months experience. How do you get experience? That's the main trick. So
You're also going to learn how Ignite stands out from the crowd with the talent they manage.
if you're just performance focused, what else do you have but performance? But if you can build a brand in the right way, if you can engage with communities, if you can build a personality and showcase who you are, that's something where brands want to get excited about.
You're going to learn about the reality of being a founder. Spoiler, it's not all roses.
If you're starting a business because you want to have the bravado and you want to call yourself an entrepreneur and it's all for social and it's going to crash and burn because
And so much more. Guys, this episode is all about showing you can do anything with enough hard work. Now enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What My Best Friend Does, where we talk to best friends in the hope of inspiring you to take immediate action. Today, I'm talking to the founder of Ignite Sports Management. Hugo, how you doing, bro?
good, thanks, bro. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Welcome to the show.
See you. Yes, mate. I'm very excited.
Come on. We like to start with a little icebreaker. What did you want to be growing up?
Ah, a sportsman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to be a sportsman. Jack of all trades, but yeah, sport. Yourself?
Mate,
Has
question.
anyone ever
Obviously,
asked you?
I don't know if they have, you know. I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be footballer,
Yeah.
and then I believed I could be in One Direction.
Really?
Yep. And then
I've seen you at a few weddings. I've seen you at a few weddings.
Yeah.
I can see
I
it.
really think, like, even if maybe not singing, I believe I could be like a backing dancer.
Yeah.
And then acting as well. Like
Nice.
I think I could. So
Triple-
basically anything.
Triple threat.
Yeah.
Triple threat.
Yeah.
Like it. Like it.
A bit like Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
The
Perfect.
British Jamie Foxx.
Perfect. Well, we started something now. Trademark that.
Yeah, but okay, you wanted to be a sportsman.
Yeah.
You've obviously ended up founding Ignite.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk me through your journey to this point and how you've ended up founding this agency.
Yeah. So loved sport, and everybody who works in sport will always say, you know, they just want to be involved in it somehow or wanted to start playing. So I played a lot of football growing up, so a goodish level, and then went to university and played a good level of rugby there. Was never going to make it, but really enjoyed the whole process of the environment within the sporting world. I also did I came from a legal background, did a law degree there and loved that side of the world. So it was always an area of an interest, but I don't know what your mindset was when you were growing up at school. To work in sport, I thought I'd either have to be a professional athlete, a physio, a coach, or work at JD Sports. That's all I thought was out. And I actually sat down with my father-in-law post-university and we did a little mind mapping session around what does the sports world look like and what can open doors, which actually we can talk about later on, what I'm trying to do with schools as well. And it opened up the mind and opened up the kind of world, to sport, which I loved. So my journey in was really understanding the sports market, and getting into the sports market was quite hard because everyone wants 6 months experience. How do you get experience? That's the main trick. So grafted quite hard. Ended up either going to a big agency, CAA, which a lot of people might know, got quite far down that process. So I ended up going to a sports agency from someone who was very well established, looked after Jensen Button, Richard McCall, a lot of big names in kind of the sporting world. And so wanted to learn what that startup process looked like. And then within that process, I don't know what you were like post-university, all my friends either went to the KPMGs, Deloitte, or, you know, try to find a job which society will tell you to go into.
Yeah.
I ended up properly geeking out and loving it. So when a lot of my mates were at the pub, going out on a Wednesday, Thursday night, I ended up writing presentations and trying to learn more about the market and the industry. And 7 years into it, had an opportunity to start ISM, learnt about the industry in totality, found myself at a crossroads where I was comfortable enough with understanding the sports market, was being headhunted by some big football agencies, rugby, golf agencies, and my career could have taken into going into that, into an even bigger corporate and starting to manage real global icons, or set up ISM. And the opportunity started to give ISM a go.
I love that. Just to double click into like a couple of things you said there. You said, getting that first 6 months experience is so hard. I've had other agency founders on who have, mentioned some strategies that people can do, like in CVs, to maybe stand out. What would your advice be to anybody who, is at their wit's end trying to find that initial bit of work experience?
I would say in the sports market, starting and leading with saying, I just love sport, is a no-no.
Okay.
Everybody, just like I just said, but starting, everybody loves sport. So if you don't...
That's not a differentiator.
Exactly. And I think showcasing differentiation, and also I think what I would be looking for is somebody who's going to go a bit deeper, work a bit harder to really reach out. So if I'm here, I get probably 10 to 15 CVs a day, cold CVs of emails coming through. The ones that really stand out to me are the ones that have done research into me, taken the effort into us, the agency. What do they like about work that we did? What are they interested in? For me, I want somebody to come in and give me energy, give me kind of excitement about what they're doing. So if I was somebody wanting to get into the sports market, do your research, spend a bit of time, bespoking each outreach to that individual company, because that will make you stand out. If you feel like a carbon copy of multiple outreaches, you're never going to get seen.
Okay, so the big takeaway, and you're not the first person to
Go on.
Stop saying, I just love sport.
Yes,
because
please.
Like you've said it, I had Johnny Kay on, who's the CCO at Versus,
Nice.
and he said a similar thing, like, stop saying you love sport. It comes from your actions.
100%.
And I think like having experiences on your CV and doing quirky things that show your passion versus just saying it, that is what helps to set you apart. So I love that.
100%.
And then, you mentioned you were at this like boutique agency. What were your job titles? Because I know they vary.
Yeah, many hats.
Okay.
Many hats. I got told when I first came in, I wouldn't really see, feel, touch being involved with an athlete for 4 or 5 years. I don't have the experience. So I was grafting a lot. I was doing a lot of sales support. I was doing a lot of research. I was doing, as a company's growing, you're supporting across PR. So an athlete has, if you're going to 360 management agency, we'll have PR support, social media support, legal support, commercial sales strategies.
Bloody hell.
Everything around them is completely protected. So I was kind of many hats, supporting on many different roles around these different areas of expertise. And for me, I love the commercial side. I love building into presentations and finding areas of uniqueness between a certain brand and an athlete. So I honed in there, And so for me, I kind of looked at what did I enjoy. I was very lucky actually from that boutique agency that I got to experience a bit of everything and see how a startup worked. But I was many hats, and not everything was glorious and not everything was great. And to be honest, the pay wasn't great either. You're coming in early. But for me, I just felt so lucky and honoured to be in a sports agency where I was experiencing how the world of athlete management works.
I love that. And like, to the listener, if they've got that CV, they've stood out, there are various opportunities on the table, like, how would you say big agency differs from a little agency, and are there pros and cons to both?
There is pros and cons to both. Big agency will give you really good security. Procedurally, they'll probably be very good. But your exposure is very small. You're looking at certain big agencies will have a day-to-day manager, basically a glorified kind of timekeeper, relationship manager, but they don't really deal with the commercials or have the brand relationships, and they won't really be dealing with the PR side of things. So the bigger agencies that come in, the divisions split off so much more. So your role becomes more focused, which to an athlete, there are benefits because they feel they're getting real expertise in some areas. But for a boutique agency, you get experience across both. And actually there's a lot of, for what we're trying to do, the way we're targeted as an agency as well, there's a lot of importance between connecting a brand vision with a PR strategy that's being built, with a manager close to the talent who knows how they're feeling at the moment, knows whether they really want to push on competition. I've worked with so many different athletes who approach sport so differently. Some athletes want to vocalize their intentions. Some want to remove pressure by not vocalizing their kind of intentions. Yeah. So with that, some brands want to promote those who are going to be making statements around this next Olympics. I want to achieve this. That's so exciting to get behind. So exciting. Some athletes who have the potential perform better when they don't vocalize. So there's so many different ways a smaller agency, you'll get a feel of all the different roles a bit more.
Yeah, I get that. So, yeah, like you said, the bigger agency, you have the process, you have the stability, but in the smaller agency, you really get the exposure.
Yes.
And that holistic view, and you get to touch on everything. So you get more experience. I mean, that really resonates with me because my first job in tech, I worked for a startup.
Okay.
And yeah, I put on so many hats. I was an analyst. I did a bit of sales. Yeah. I did customer support. I did tech support. And it's made getting jobs in future like so much easier because 100%. We've got so many different experiences that I can pull from. So yeah, to the listener, if you have the decision to go between small and big, you've got the information there. It's up to you to decide what you prefer.
So if you were coming to me as an agency and you're wanting to sign with ISM and you start in that startup, you would have directly impacted across all those different divisions with so hands-on. I want that in an agency. If you're part of a bigger corporation, your exposure is so small and you're only a small part of a very big cog.
And you don't feel like you're contributing as well. Like you don't feel like there's impact, Exactly. Because that's how I felt at times. Like when you're in a startup, you can say, oh my God, I suggested like this feature and they've designed it and it's led to this or this client or that. And I'm like, yeah. But when you're when you're in a big organisation and you suggest something, it gets lost in bureaucracy. Yeah. Maybe it'll be done. Maybe 100 other people made the same request. You can't really attribute your success.
And a good employer, when they do interview, will look at the CV and really pull out how much that person actually did compared to what they're saying they did. And if you're able to communicate, actually, I did have an impact here, and that drove X change. I did have an impact here and that drove Y change. That is hugely more beneficial to, I'm part of a big wheel, and you can say you were part of supporting this project, but you were one of a team of 15 driving that forward.
Yeah.
So how much were you involved? And that would question, as an employer coming in, how hands-on is this person going to be and how much work experience do they really have in that role?
Yeah. So, to the listener, as they're thinking about potentially getting into this world of, should we call it talent management?
Yeah.
Is that how it would be defined? Agent?
Yes.
I mean, there are many different names for it. What would your overarching piece of advice be to somebody who's really set on working their way through the rungs? Because you mentioned, earlier in the conversation, in some agencies it might be 4 or 5 years before you actually touch a client. Pause. But it's how is it? I suppose how is it you push through that process as quick as possible?
It's a tricky one. I think what's really good is identifying what is an area of passion for you early on in the sports industry. The more you can get insight into the different areas of the sports world, the better it is for you to really kind of carve out what your future is going to be. If it's going to be an agent has many hats. And an agent, different corporations, could be two different things. So if you're wanting to kind of focus in on the commercials, or you're wanting to focus in more on brand deals or management, identifying that early is really important, and expressing that back to your employer that you want to kind of find an area of specialism there is where I would suggest for growth development, because if you are in part of a bigger agency, but you really want to work in brand partnerships and talent management, really request that and spend time to become an expert in that. Like, I really geeked out to a point where it was a bit worrying that I'd be doing presentations, learning, listening. I couldn't walk down the street. I couldn't turn a page before I'd see a brand partnership on a magazine. I'd think, why are they sponsoring that person? I was literally obsessed with wanting to find out everything. So
for you, it was brand partnerships, the thing that you geeked out on?
I loved it. Yeah, brand partnerships and making an impact in that space.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working with an athlete, understanding them, and making a difference to their life. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't touch their performance levels. I can't, advise them how to perform better on the day. That's not my role. But outside of the pitch, outside of their sport, making an impact and changing the game drove me forward massively. So I love that side of things. So anyone who wants to try and find an area of specialism in talent management, or develop in talent management, and you're not sure how to climb, become an expert in one side of it.
And then the other question I had, before we get into like Ignite specifically, like obviously, you founded your own agency. Is it critical to have worked in an agency before founding your own? Or like, I know I've had people who, if you have a friend maybe who's successful, you start representing them. It kind of like happens almost by chance. Yeah. So I suppose the question is, where is the better chance of success, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, setting up businesses, I always have, when I was growing up, you think people who set up their own business, they have it all mapped out. A lot of it is seeing the right opportunity and having the confidence to go for it. Whether you're prepared or not, you can prepare as much as you want, but it's seeing an opportunity and really just going for it with confidence. Yeah. And, just kind of taking a separate path here. I remember speaking to my wife and saying, is this the right time to go? I've got brilliant offers here, real stability, working with global icons, the flashing lights up here, like, I've made it. Or I can take this leap of faith. And as a team, we said, this is the right time to give it a go. In terms of management of, going back to your original question, so the reason why I would say that was the right time for me was I had the experience and the confidence. I knew I was a good agent.
100%.
When people ask about the misconceptions around the management agency, there's a lot of people who don't have that experience. And there's a lot of people who are great marketeers in what they're doing. But these are also people's lives. Athletes' lives are finite. They can get injured, it stops. You have athletes who can struggle to make one Olympic Games, or if they're lucky, go to two. We're lucky, we've represented some who've gone to 4 and retained Olympic titles. The experience that I have is where I get the most confidence, that I know the experience, I know the market, I know the industry, I can guide them in the right way. To come in as a talent manager, and look, I'm not to judge, I'm not seen it, but I have seen a lot of agents who have made the shift into, I want to be an agent, and they've used other people's careers as guinea pigs almost to learn. And where I feel quite bad is they're in the hands of someone who doesn't have the experience. Yes, they have passion, but these are people's lives they're dealing with. And I would say experience in the sports industry is a lot more important. And what I've also found is we get a lot of requests for consultancy, and a lot of them come from people who are friends of big names who are saying they're their agent, but are completely out of their depth.
Oh, so they outsource.
So they outsource, and
crazy.
So it looks optics-wise like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an agent, and it comes with that bravado, but they don't have that experience. I mean, how can you negotiate an apparel deal when you don't know what an apparel should look like?
Yeah.
What are people charging? Don't know the clauses. So you pay a lawyer a lot of money, where you go but a lawyer can only advise to some degree. You have to then go and speak to another agent who might say actually they've completely undersold this, or you're then signing an agreement where you could have completely locked someone into a contract which handcuffs them for a significant period of time. So that's the big frustration that I see in the sports industry.
I love it.
And there's a lot of great marketeers of how brilliant they are and how well they're doing, and you're just thinking steer clear.
You know what? We're going to get into that in a
Okay.
bit. But like that tees us up nicely, right?
Go on.
So Ignite, if I've done my intro properly, you'll know that, oh my God, who we got? We got Max Whitlock, most decorated gymnast of all time. We've got Helen Glover, rowing superstar, multiple golds across Olympics, Commonwealth, Euros, Tom Dean. We got Emily Campbell.
Yeah.
Look at this, Andrea Spindolini, Serie X.
Yeah.
Like the list goes on.
Announced European Diver of the Year today.
Really?
Cool. Yeah.
At 17 years old?
Yeah. Well, no, she's 19 now, but at 16,
Okay.
she's Young Sports Personality of the Year.
Wow.
She's done bronze medalist, world champion, everything. She's incredible.
Okay, so I've just teed you up there. Like there are a few of the athletes that you manage, but yeah, to the listener, tell us about Ignite and what it is you do, why you founded it.
Yeah, so looking again at the sports market and all the different sports agencies, and even in my old company, we became volume based as a management side of things. So 40, 50 athletes on the books, and the strategy kind of moved into, and you see it across a lot of different agencies as well, if 2 or 3 make it big time, we focus our energy on them. That's where we load up, we get excited by it, and if 2 of those 3 break out on the global stage, let's put all our resources here. I'm so people driven, by relationships driven. So what's happening to the other 45 people? Who are you promising? What are you promising to them? What are they doing? Where are they sitting? And I really struggled with that. And I really struggled with being a part of an agency that did that, but also other agencies who you'd look at it and they're selling athletes almost like a catalogue. You know, here's someone who's won a world title, here's someone who won an Olympic champion, and you're almost identical athletes in the same sport. So if you're an athlete looking at an agency, I don't want to be on an agency where there's 4 or 5 almost identical other athletes, because these guys are meant to be an amplification of you and driving the same passion that you have for being successful. So ISM was kind of born where we wanted to, where I was the most successful, where I found I was the most successful in the sports market, was being very passionate about who I worked with, seeing a clear path of how we could change the game within the sporting world with them. And my credibility when it came to brand pitches and communications grew because I not only believed in them, I backed up what I was saying to those brands. And when it came to brand partnerships, there was trust. So a lot of agents come in and say, I've got the next best thing, I've got this person, da, 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 da. For me, I stood for working with great people that could really engage with, you know, everybody. In that sport has moved so much on where, especially in the Olympic side of things, probably less side in football, that you have to resonate with the everyday person as well. So personality is really important as well as performance. And I wanted to replicate that across all the athletes we represented. I wanted them to have their own lanes, to feel a lot of energy and excitement. We build 4-year commercial strategies for them and PR strategies for them.
In line with Olympic.
In line with Olympics and also different championships and, you know, different milestones for them. You know, we do look after boxers as well, and we do some other work in emerging sports like paddle and things like that. These big guys that are coming through. Podcasting, we'll do the signature picture later on. And the point of difference for me, I thought, with competitors was we've got 10 athletes on the books and in the Olympic space, and every single one of them were different. Every single one hit different people. Helen Glover's a mum of 3, inspiring mums everywhere that, you know, you can keep competing after you have kids at the top level, keep chasing your own dreams. Yeah, so I found these points of difference. And when I worked with brands, when we were pitching to them, they knew that there was validity in what we're saying. We're not just trying to make money quickly and build those relationships. And actually we got to a point which I was quite proud of, that when we make an announcement for a new signing, brands and people would say, what have you seen? What have you seen with this person that I haven't seen? What's your vision? And I thought, we're doing something right. Yeah. That's what it was a real light bulb moment for me, where it's so easy for me to go and sign 30, 40 people, have them on my books and look like this great agency, but actually 5 to 10 really powerful clients.
Hyper-focused.
With 2-3 people behind them putting energy, you can change the game.
I love that. And, you know, you mentioned the fact that you took a leap of faith when starting. To people who might be thinking about doing something similar, what were the biggest challenges you faced when starting the agency?
I won't sugarcoat it. I was a great agent. I had confidence in that. No idea about setting up a business. No idea. Two different things.
Yeah.
You learn quick. You've got the accountancy side of things, the kind of legals, the website build, the hiring process. It's very easy interviewing people to hire for another company, but you don't have to do any of the back end. Then you're HR man. You're multiple hats, and being an agent was just a small part. So that was the biggest difficulty. There's an element of loneliness when you first start. So making sure you surround yourself with the right people. My wife was the biggest rock across everything, but it's that kind of, I was a good agent. I thought, this is great. What's so different? Actually running a business and then growing a business and then taking a step back. And the CEO role now is, where do I want the business to go? What's our brand values? So I still really love being an agent.
But there's so much more you have to do. You have to develop talent. You have to keep them happy. You've also got other people's livelihoods in your hands.
Yep.
They've got goals, aspirations. Maybe they want to start a family. Maybe they want to buy their first house. And I think,
all those things.
This is why I love this podcast, because, I did a post recently. Everybody sees the glamour of start your own business, make
love
millions.
Love that, by the way. I said to you off camera. Love that.
Yeah. But there's actually an everyday reality that people, I don't know if they're unaware or they just think, oh, that's not going to be me, or because of the money I make, it's not going to be, I'm not going to have to worry about it. But you do. It's like 24/7, and I love painting the reality. So yeah, thanks for that.
Oh mate, I love that post. And there's times where you look at the other side and you're thinking, it'd be great to clock off, and with that your mind clocks off. Oh my gosh, it'd be brilliant. And there are pros and cons, and I would say honestly, it doesn't get easier. As you grow, your responsibility grows. So you're absolutely bang on.
Yeah.
When you're starting, by the way, anyone who's just starting a new business, best advice, don't be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask. If you're starting a business because you want to have the bravado and you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, and it's all for social and it's all for what, it's gonna crash and burn, because you need to be confident enough to not know the answers and be bold enough to say, what does that mean? Tell me in layman terms, I don't understand this, because you need to learn quick and you need people around you that can support you when you don't know. I'm not an accountant, first of all. I'm not a website designer. I'm not HR so you've got to ask all these different questions.
Yeah.
But that, you're right. The entrepreneurial world, there are great benefits, but for me this year especially, I've got Rafa who's just turned 14 months.
Yeah.
And I've really honed in on what do I enjoy from Ignite Sports Management, and the responsibility of people development now, with our team, making sure I want to have ISM as a business, which I'm so excited to be working in, and the team love it, and the athletes feel part of a family. That takes work.
100%.
I want to know what my commercial director is wanting to do. I want to know he's confident enough to tell me, I want to start a family, or I want to go and do this. So that takes time, takes pressure, but there's a lot more to it than just,
be an agent.
I'm this great CEO founder and we're doing really well, and look at this car that I'm driving. It's so much more than that. And that's quite an important thing for me.
I love it. And then, going, talking about the agency as a whole, when you're starting, even now, what is your strategy to develop relationships with brands?
Authenticity, being and really believing in what you're selling and having the energy to work closely with them. I think brands will be pitched so many times, and we talked about those agents who come in and say they've got the next best thing. That next best thing doesn't fly. What does that agent's credibility now look like to the brand? Well, the brand's bought into them. It hasn't flown. you promised the world and under-delivered. So for me, what's really important is being authentic and
so being realistic almost. So rather than saying I've got this athlete and they're gonna become like the most winningest Olympian of all time, it's like I've got this athlete who's dedicated to their craft, they're putting in the hours, and hopefully, you know, if things go our way and they continue on this trajectory, there should be some success.
Yeah, and
shit, give me a job. You know what I mean?
We spend so much time at the back end of building a strategy of what sectors do we see this athlete can make a difference in. So is it apparel? Is it nutrition? Whatever it might be, where are we going to make a difference? And then when we go to pitch that to a brand, we're showing them a roadmap of where them spending on the athlete is going to show a return on investment for them, but making a difference in that market to their competitors. And that's really important for me. So the performance is great. I almost see that as a university degree to get in the room with the brand. But then I want to showcase almost an operating vehicle of how the partnership can run. That's where I really want to be a point of difference to other agents, where I want to be a point of difference to those volume agencies. If you work with us, you know, this is what I see you could be doing with an athlete, let's just say. So Venus and Gillette worked with Emily Campbell around kind of changing mindsets and being confident in your skin. Emily Campbell was an absolute beacon for so many different women here in the UK. That brand partnership is perfect. So we want to make sure we're not just...
As in Gillette?
Gillette,
Nice.
And Venus, Felix Gillette under the same company.
Yeah.
So for us, it's the athlete stands for something and can make an impact in something. And our brand relationships are hugely important, that we don't just check in when it comes to invoicing. We're checking in around, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Here's an idea which might, you know, work together for the brand and for us. We're proactive. When we get a deal done, we don't sit on our hands. We want to work with them. So for the brand manager, the brand marketing director, whoever it might be, you're thinking, this athlete, this agent genuinely cares. And then we also connect the athlete to our vision, make sure they're aligned with it before we go out to market. So when they're coming on set, they're excited. Suddenly, this chemistry between what we're building can make an impact. They're then speaking to press about what they're doing. You're then starting to make a big difference compared to, let me just turn up. How long we got? 2 hours on a shoot. Great. Get me done and get me out of there. It's not how we work at all.
So it's getting both the brand and the athlete to be brought into the whole process.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you guarantee success both for the brand and for the athlete.
Yeah.
And then, like, with that, as you were talking, I know that you manage boxers. Actually, with all elite athletes, like you said, the actual career they have, that's the university degree, right?
Yeah.
Being an Olympian, being an elite level sportsman, that's the degree they have. How is it that you get them to buy into everything else without losing focus as to what got them there?
Very good question. Firstly, the work we've done. Like, that's the work we've done, the precedent we've set. You know, when we first started with Max, you're looking at just school appearances, no trajectory of really what does the future like. Gymnastics wasn't cool after London 2012. You know, he was a double bronze medalist. As somebody who won a silver, it wasn't cool for a guy to do gymnastics. He had potential to be the greatest we've had at that period. You have to work with the coach to make sure what we're trying to do and build over here won't affect this over here. So having a really close relationship with the coach, making them feel involved is really important. Communicating to that inner circle is massive, and having a real strong commercial strategy and PR strategy to go after it and work with brands who are wanting to invest behind that journey. What we've come now into, Max is now going on, you know, back in 2018, he was launching global shoes with Adidas, you know, and the big change and jump from that process to that won't happen unless his performance stays where it is, of course. But if we can symbiotically build the brand around the person, you know, it relieves pressure really from performance, because the more his brand's going up, you know, that's a real win. Most people think the more you do, and is it putting pressure on you? Well, you know, boxers, for example, you lose a fight, if you're just performance focused, what else do you have but performance? But if you can build a brand in the right way, if you can engage with communities, if you can build a personality and showcase who you are, that's something where brands want to get excited about.
I love that. So basically, it's almost like, I don't want to say creating a failsafe, but by having multiple streams of income, even if the performance is to dip, you have the security of the stuff you've been building up this way. And because you have that security, it means the pressure is off, which actually allows you to perform better.
100%. I'll give it one example. I'll try and condense this as best I can. Tom Dean, triple Olympic champion, incredible athlete. This year to LA, we spent from Tokyo to Paris, when I started representing him, we wanted to do our own swim academies and give back to the sport. Yeah. With here in the UK, and what gets me quite passionate about my role and the impact I can have within the UK is it's mandatory that every child should be able to leave primary school swimming. Still 1 in 4 can't. So if we are winning medals at the top end here and we're inspiring next generation, but our kids still aren't swimming and drowning is still happening. And
adults, it's me.
And adults, and me, and adults. You know, the amount of people who get drunk at Canal in London and fall in and it's too cold and the fright and all these different things. So with Tom, he can go on, he does some amazing partnerships, you know, with Dreams, and he was there with Gillian Anderson.
The actress?
He did a TV advert with her. You know, he signed with Amiga, brilliant partner. You know, one of the leading faces with Speedo, unbelievable partnerships. We spent 4 years behind the scene creating an amazing team behind what Tom Swim Schools could be. So it's not just if you're a mad swimming, you know, enthusiast, come and learn to swim with Tom Dean and you can have a picture with his medal. It's how can we actually change something here within the UK? So we've got a board of 5 directors, 25 years experience across all of them, all have their own areas of speciality. You know, leisure facility running, big global management within sports, myself as one of the board directors. And we launched after Paris. And for Tom, he's still going to LA, but he's launched his swim schools. We've already got 12,000 kids swimming, which is brilliant. We've got plans to really try and get to 35,000. We've got the Royal Foundation on board. We're helping pools that, if one pool gets filled in with cement because they can't run it, that whole community can't swim, so then the problem gets bigger. So we're helping pools in certain areas with actually just helping them run, you know, keeping those kind of facilities still running, even if we're not benefiting from it. And for me, where I'm really proud of something like that and the energy we can give is Tom is a competing athlete. He's going to be going to LA to go and win more medals. He won, you know, 7 medals in the Commonwealth Games, multiple world titles, all these different things. He's an athlete that can stand proudly on the stage and say, I'm so proud to have won Olympic, you know, another world title, but I'm more proud of the work I'm doing at grassroots sports. It's that genuine connection to, if you're impacting up here, how can you make a difference down here? That for me is so powerful, that an athlete is taking that leap and being that foresighted over the next 4 years. Most athletes will look at it and go, no, I'm just going to put my head down, I'm just going to swim. But to have the buy-in from the coach, to have the buy-in from his team around him, he's putting in so much energy in what he's doing. That for me is an athlete that stands out and should transcend the sport and should get the national attention. He's gone into Parliament, he's met with people about challenging them and changing kind of policies that are already in place. That for me is a true kind of icon in what we're doing. That's what I love.
I love that. And as you've said that, like I was thinking, okay, this is like a superhuman, like an actual superhero. Like, how is it you go about finding the right talent for ISM?
Yeah.
Like you've mentioned, obviously Tom Dean there, but yeah, what is it specifically you're on the lookout for when you're looking to bring people on board? They
do have to be good. Of course they do, in terms of what they're doing.
But that's a given.
That's a given, mate. And we are quite ruthless in that they have to be globally one of the best. So there is that importance that they can get their punch from that side of things. But I have a good network of the coaches as well. So I speak to the coaches, and again, that comes from the experience here within the UK. And it's obviously different within football and different things. But in the Olympic sporting world, for example, the questions I ask them is, what type of human are they? You know, what's their work ethic like? How do they respond to criticism? You know, do they have an ego? How do they operate? I've had so many big named athletes come in to potentially join the agency. Within 5 minutes, I've looked at them and think, I will never work with you. Because we want to, for an agency, our credibility comes from the people that we work with. And coming on set and saying thank you and goodbye to everybody and taking that, for me, is really important. That's a moral of mine. And that will go so far, because when you're not competing, those athletes will be in demand until they don't start performing. And then people remember what they were like on set, and they're never going to want to have them back. So it's quite a hard process, really, to look at who's coming through, also what sports can make an impact and a difference. You know, we've just signed a really cool skateboarder at the moment, Lola Tambling, got some wicked partnerships with Weetabix, Red Bull, Adidas, bleeds into culture. She's young, 16, so she can connect Gen Z to the older generation as well. Really awesome personality. That takes a lot of kind of due diligence, but there's also quite a big process of, well, where do you see yourself? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to become? And all these questions are really important, which for me, why the process of joining an athlete joining the agency that's why I'm very proud that when we have an athlete that signs, people go, oh, what have you seen? What have I not seen about that person? Because there's a lot of vetting to it, really.
And like, you know, you mentioned the fact that they all have to be good people. I'm sure sometimes, you know, there can be a facade. The veil slips at a point. How is it you manage those difficult clients who might be under contract? Maybe you've never experienced it, by the way.
No, I have. You know, there are things where it doesn't quite go to plan, or I hear things on set and I'm not quite comfortable with it, or, you know, things aren't quite marrying up. Ultimately, this is meant to be a team. We're meant to be a kind of arm to that person where this is our area of speciality. And it's where in the infancy stages, you might have to look at it and think, oh, as a business, we need to ensure that we're still able to grow, and then we can deep dive into our values a bit later on. That's something which is always hard, but for me, I've really tried to stay true to who I am and what the business represents. So we have honest conversations, and we do have situations around, you know, where we feel comfortable, where what their thoughts are, what's their perceptions, where their priorities, and sometimes a lot of those outbursts or changes are training's not going well, there's problems at home, or, you know, they're under a lot of pressure. So it's having that time and energy to really deep dive and say, are you all right? First of all, is everything okay? And then try and work through it. And if things aren't right, then that's when we say, you know, good luck to you. Best of luck in your next venture. You know, we'll always, you know, say good luck and everything like that, leave on a good term, but we've got to stay true to who we are, but we're not quick to say you did one thing wrong, you know, you're out. We try and work through things if we can.
And it sounds like, from what you just said there, like something I'm getting from this conversation is you really deal with everyone. So to your point there, you're going to be engaging with the coach as well. So I didn't assume that a talent manager or an agent is having much, you know, contact time with the coach. You think that you're just working on stuff behind the scenes for the talent. They turn up, they do it. But it sounds like it's all encompassing, like you really embed yourself into their lives for the betterment of them, with just their best interests at heart.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what's really important to me. That's what drives me. A lot of coaches came to my wedding. So,
really?
you know, I like, for me, it's that relationship, and also everyone's different. So when do we need to relieve a bit of stress? And sometimes, you know, we can do that. You know, the athlete might be under a lot of stress for this month coming in, so I'll talk to the coach and we'll pull back pressure. You know, there's it's the team around the team that's really important. But bleeding in that personal against commercial was really important. And I think it's really important that we are commercially minded, of course, and that's our sole focus of what we're trying to achieve for them. But there's a lot of personal elements. You know, someone's becoming a dad for the first time, we have to be aware of that, respect that. You know, we've looked after athletes now who suddenly burst on the scene, become gold medalists, then journalists are chasing them down the corridor, and saying, is he ready to be a dad? Is he fit to be a dad? After he gets a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games as opposed to a gold. So you deal with everything, but you've got to manage quite closely with the athlete at the heart of it.
Where did I want to go from there? How long's ISM been going now? 6
years?
Yeah,
6 years.
Okay.
7, yeah.
2018, right?
Yeah.
So you've been going for 7 years.
Yeah.
You obviously have...
So old. I'm so old.
You've obviously got people who work under you now. What is your approach to other fellow agency founders? What's your approach to developing and nurturing the talent you have in-house?
Yeah.
It's not just about the athlete, right? It's about the people you have in-house.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't say I nailed it first time. I took a lot of different routes to see what would work best. When you're a young agency, financials are quite important. You don't have a lot of money behind you. For me, it was really important that ISM was self-funded. I didn't get investment behind it. I really wanted to do this on my own. That was a real important value for me. And I hired young at the beginning, and there's nothing wrong with hiring young, but as a young agency, you become a growth house for a lot of those people, which they want to learn from you, but you're spending 98% of your time teaching them, and actually you're getting no income from them really, because you're just growing what they're doing. So my time is being pulled from growing the agency. Now we're at a position now where we have levels where we do have growth coming through, and we can now try and nurture them to really grow into the business. But I look for really key traits to me, especially with that SLT. One of our recent one of our recent hires.
Yeah.
Jake
Everyone's talent.
Everyone's talent, yeah. Jake Presley, a commercial director, came from CAA before. We'll cross paths with him in the industry as well. I just loved the way he operated. I just loved his soft skills. I thought, how great would he be sitting on that kind of senior leadership team as almost a reflection of who I stand for and what he can teach below that. I think it's just brilliant. And so I look for a lot of people who have similar kind of morals to me and values to me. Now, he is brilliant in so many things where I'm not as strong as well. So you should never be afraid to hire excellent people around you who are stronger in different areas. If you always remain guarded as a CEO and think the world's out to get you, you're never gonna benefit. But for me, I want to find people, the end goal, especially this year, I don't know what it was, but this year I really I looked forward to 5 years, and I thought, what do I want ISM to be? And I want it to be a family. I really want it to be a place where people come and enjoy work and love it and all buy into the same environment. And for me, I just made sure that starts from the top, coming down.
So on that, what do I want to go with? Experience versus a fresh hire. Is there a time in business for each? It sounds like now you're in a
I'm sounding brutal, aren't I? I'm sounding brutal.
No. But what I mean is maybe because, like you say, you're trying to get the business off the ground at the start. Maybe you start with more experience. You kind of give people more responsibility. But then as you grow as a business, as you're trying to set culture and build for the future, it's at that point where you also have the funds, right, to hire experience, because like you said, you started without any funding. Yeah. So now you're at a point where you can afford those experienced hires. So would you say that's how it's changed?
You're spot on. And I can't do everything.
Yeah.
I really can't do everything. And if I want to grow in the right way, this is the battle I think that most CEOs and founders will find. Growth whilst maintaining quality is the hardest thing. So I can't do all of that whilst maintaining quality. So finding people at SLT level who have the experience, who can advise me on certain things, is the most important thing. And that filters down. In the early stages, a postgrad with enthusiasm is brilliant, but they're also coming with no experience in the industry. And I would argue that experience over a university degree in the sports industry way more valuable. If you do 3 years straight from school in any kind of form of the sports industry over a 3-year sports marketing degree, 100% way more valuable.
I think people need to hear that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I've hired people, I've had interviews with people who went to top 5 universities in the UK doing sports management.
But they just got no idea.
No idea. And you're asking them real life questions, you know, the real devil of detail around intellectual property rights and challenging on things. They don't have that. But you speak to someone who's worked 3 years in a sports marketing or sports management agency, way more informed, way more real life experience. So that post university, I'd say, it probably wasn't the right move, but I learned a lot from it, so I wouldn't regret it.
And then just like you said, you've learned a lot. You've been doing it for 7 years now. To anybody who's looking to hire talent, are there any like big no-nos and things that you're just like, no, okay, they're not the right fit? And on the flip side, what can people do to really showcase the best of themselves in processes?
From a talent looking at joining an agency, look at their experience, not what their very slick presentation will be. Really, really important. And there'll be a lot of smooth talkers, people who can talk a very, very good game with some great presentations, but behind that, they don't really have much life experience or management experience and experience in the sports industry, because that holds a lot of value. So I would say if you're looking at a sports agency, look at someone who has that behind them, and then also look at who else they've got on the books. And are there too many similar people to you? What's the staff to kind of athlete ratio? And, you know, do you see them being a good fit for you? Often these are people who are representing you. So do you like them, and are you going to be happy with them representing you? I just see a lot of, we're this amazing agency and all these slick things, and you're thinking, gosh, they're being really misrepresented. So that would be my advice. What was the flip side question? Sorry.
Any big no-nos?
For a talent joining an agency?
Yeah, like when you're hiring.
Okay.
What's like, no, I'm sorry, that they've just hit a red flag. Okay, I know that this is done 5 minutes in.
Yeah. We've got a no dick policy. I'll say it. We've got a real no, like just real arrogance, real kind of, you know, you need confidence in sport, of course you do, but it's kind of being warped into where you think your value should be. You know, being fully focused on I should be earning X, and a mentality of collaboration is really important, and understanding from, you know, I don't know that athlete's journey, for example. I don't know what their priorities are. I don't know what their trajectory is for what they're wanting to achieve in sport. So I need to learn. Whilst I've represented hundreds of athletes, all different experiences, everyone's different. So I will approach every meeting, and I will always take meetings with really wanting to understand what their goals are. If I've got somebody who is just not listening, or I've got the experience as well in terms of what I'm thinking and what we can do and how does that work, and they're just so focused on what they need,
it's a no-no.
It's a no-no.
Okay, I love that. What's been your proudest achievement since starting Ignite?
I've got a real problem with this. I am a typical person who can't smell the roses. I really can't. I can't look back and see what I've achieved. If I would look back where I started at ISM to where I am now, I wouldn't believe it. Like, I just I struggle so much with that.
What would your wife say it is?
Yeah, do you know what? We built our own offices, you know, had some land, built our own offices. I was quite proud of that.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's quite cool, as opposed to, you know, dare I say, coming in and spending rent on something. So owning that was pretty cool, and opening that up. Do you know what? I'd say one of my proudest moments was Paris this year. I'm always like a head down. So after London and Rio kicked around and Tokyo kicked around, I'm always like, when they're competing in the Olympic Games, I'm grafting. I'm seeing what's happening. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm always on the ground, and no matter what happens, success or not success, what's next? I'm always on. It's my biggest problem. Overthinker, always on. And this game's being in Paris, I said I'm going to take 2-3 days and actually go out and watch the Olympics. And then you had some amazing partnerships with a lot of the Team GB brands and ISC brands, and lucky enough to be looked after, with the likes of Amiga and, Adidas House and all these really cool places. And as I was walking, I took my wife, so we had 2-3 days, and, she's very proud, but I also am just like, what's next? What's going on? As we were walking in, everywhere we went was my athletes on billboards, all the way from here to Paris. At King's Cross, we had Max, Emily, Helen Glover on NatWest ads. We looked over, Andrea was the face of Eurostar getting on the plane, train over. Tom was in with Amiga. It was just, I couldn't surround myself, and G was trying to tell me to stop and look, and I brought all that to life and, brought those athlete journeys forward and got the nation behind those. And I think
there's like a full circle moment.
A full circle, and seeing, one of my clients win gold and celebrating with their family afterwards. And that was and bringing my wife along, who's the complete rock behind everything. That was quite a proud moment.
Nice. Shed a tear?
No, I'm not that emotional. No, I'm not emotional. I shed a tear at the wedding when I saw you dancing. Getting ready to go. I was like, this guy should have been in One Direction.
Exactly.
There you go. Triple threat.
No direction. You've really dropped so much knowledge about the industry. How has the industry changed and evolved since in the time that you've been in it? It's been 10 plus years now?
Yeah, I was over 12. When I first negotiated sponsorship contracts, there was no such thing as social media.
Wow.
Mental. So
we're old.
We're so old, mate. I remember the MySpace and Facebook days. But I remember, it's crazy. So what was important was their times, her appearances, how many media interviews they can do, the rights around which sectors they have exclusivity with. Never social media.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And I remember influencers first starting to come onto the scene, and what does that world look like? So that's changed a lot. The presence of social media, the athletes having their own voice, their own kind of media platform. That was probably one of the biggest jumps.
I love that. And you touched upon the fact that there's like a misconception with people. I think it was selling the world. Are there any other misconceptions about the sports industry that we should know about?
Yeah.
Also, it can be no, because we did already touch it.
Yeah, I think for me, if there's talent listening or people listening, I think people have there is a lot of hard work that needs to go behind it. And I think that's something that's really important that should be remembered, that you can see the end result. And I think even within the sports industry, there's a problem of, just showcasing all the great parts and how amazing this is and this experience. But for me, I get energy from actually the work we do behind the scenes and spending that time on the days where things aren't great for them or the athletes, and where we're really honing in on strategies and working for them. And I get excitement by presenting that back to the athletes and building that with them. And so the end goal for me is gratification for the work we've done for the athlete, not for my own social media and things like that. So that's one of the only perceptions I've had. There's a lot of hard work that should go into it. It is fun. So if you are passionate about it, it is an area to go into. But yeah, I would just be aware that it is still quite not a murky world, but there are a lot of people who claim they have more experience or are better suited when it's not quite right.
I love that. And then, you mentioned a story with Tom earlier, with the fact that you've helped 12,000 kids to swim. Yeah, in terms of, I don't want to say keeping people relevant the whole time, but engaging talent's audience all year, every year. What is do you have some other examples of how you're doing that?
Yeah, across the board, it's difficult. So football, for example, it's every week.
Yeah,
every week these guys are playing. So performance is almost at the front, and these guys are on crazy salaries where they don't really care about brand partnership. They just want to go and play football. I'd say the footballers that do well or want to work in the brand space are those who get excited for work outside of football, really, than actually needing the financials behind it. In terms of athletes that, we want to build stories around and keeping them at the forefront, Emily Campbell at the moment, we're working closely with her around building so her story for me was really powerful. She talked quite openly around there was no athletes that looked like her going to the Olympic Games, and for her, she had no real financial support. Weightlifting really didn't have any money backing behind it, so her local community all pulled together. Like the market gave her free food, local taxi companies took her to places and trained, and all got her. Local university gave her a job to help fund her to go to the Olympic Games. She goes and wins a silver medal in Tokyo. The sport suddenly gets funding. I found her really fascinating and really inspirational. That for me is exactly what an inspiration, an athlete should be able to do and inspire the next generation. Her story needed to be told by people who had the ability to do that. And so we're now working with her to build a gym back in her local community, which is half the gym is going to be commercialized to basically pay for the other half, which is going to be a youth centre, so people can try the sport or have the opportunity to have a safe space to come and train. That for me is something where, as a brand, wanting to get behind her, we're working with NatWest again, renewed with her, helping her from a business life cycle, setting up a business, and an athlete visually wanting to give back is massive. So that's something that we're working with her. We've set up podcasts with some of the athletes. Tom D Medal Machine, one of the first podcasts from an individual athlete that launched in Team GB House, which was one of the first ever done in history. So we've got that over the line. So there's a lot of different. I could go into probably.
No. They were great. They were great.
I could go into. So with Andrea, what's her passions now? Huge advocate for mental health. So we're working with certain charities and using her own platform now to impact making a difference. So we're looking at driving that from an actual, not just working with a charity to reshare a post, but actually driving a change potentially around social media within schools. So for us, yes, they're things which aren't just outside of them performing and winning a world title. They are outside of the sport making impacts. So that's what excites me as well.
I love it. And then you touched upon it at the beginning of the conversation, but knowing you personally, I know that you're trying to you're doing some work in schools. Could you touch upon the great work that you're doing?
Big shout out to Pearson Education on this. It's something I wanted to do. Now I've kind of got to a point where I do want to give back. I do want to spend some time, using the knowledge that I have to give back to the next generation kind of coming through myself. I still think if you go into schools, people don't really understand the sports market and the sports industry. It's not talked about. It's not the kind of communication pathway of what is out there still isn't being discussed. So I'm really wanting to kind of lift the lid on what that sports industry is and to educate people. And sport is for everybody. It's if you're an engineer and really analytical, but you love sport, well, guess what? Go into Formula One. There's a place there where you can connect engineering and sport. If you're massively into creative design and arts but love sport, brilliant. Adidas have a new development business around creating new products. And so I'm working with Pearson Education, one of the biggest education providers here in the UK. We actually use some of the athletes, and I brought some friends in the industry from Team GB and Red Bull Racing and all these different things to profile their jobs as well, quite similar to what you're trying to do in the sports industry. And that was sitting on a Pearson website platform, which is still accessible, so I'll share that with you later on. But going into schools and really talking to them around the sports industry and what's out there, because unfortunately, even when I left all those years ago, it's still, am I a teacher, am I a physio, am I a coach or a sports athlete, or do I have to work at Sports Direct?
I love it.
I really want to open it up because it's wicked. It's such a cool industry.
100%. And this is one of the reasons for this recording itself, right, is to try and shine a light and showcase the art of the possible,
Hmm.
and for people who might not be sure on the next step to take.
I love that you're doing
Hopefully
this.
they've
I love that
taken
you're
some
doing this.
inspiration from this conversation, and not just this conversation, because like what I try and do is give like a complete perspective. And I think, I've now spoken to yourself, I've spoken to Johnny Kay, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at Versus. I've spoken to Hayden Clotty, who is an Alpha Talent, and he manages some content creators. I also spoke with Sammy, who manages a content creator called SV2. So
Nice.
even within like talent management, there's so many different arms. Like you're a specialist, Olympics, boxing, various sports. There are so many different pathways within sport, because sport is so broad. You just need to have the resources avaavailable, I suppose.
Sports PR, sports marketing. If you take a brand, you wheel around the jobs. You take an Adidas, athlete partnerships, creative development. Working with teamwear. There's the wheel of opportunities is so vast.
Yeah, it's just about tapping into it, isn't it?
Tapping into it and profiling, making people aware.
As we look to the future with ISM, like I'm sure you've had acquisition offers.
Yep.
Like, what's your approach to dealing with those offers, and to potential people who have businesses and are fielding potential acquisition offers? Like, what are your considerations?
Yeah, so we had quite a few before being open before the Paris kind of process at Paris Olympics, which was great, and it's about what position you're in life, and for us, I personally was about to have Rafa. I didn't want to be in a buyout process. I have so much left to give in terms of the sports industry, and it made me really think about what do I want ISM to look like in 5 to 10 years. When that first came in, firstly, it was a flattering, suggestion that we're doing something right. We had a few offers that came in. I felt like I had a for sale sign on my head, and I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't part of the plan. I didn't advertise it. I had no intentions. So that was really flattering that we're doing something right. But it's stages in life that you're in, and what do I want that to look like? And, I've got a vision for where I want ISM to be. I've got a good team. We're all aligned into that vision. We've got a lot left to give.
You're not done yet.
We are nowhere near yet, and I don't want to be part of a bigger agency. I want to keep disrupting and keep changing the game, because that's where I'm getting my energy from. It's not financial for me, fully financial. So it's not the right time at all.
I love that. And you mentioned the fact that you're all aligned with where you want to go. Where do you see ISM in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, bigger, a little bit bigger. But we want to start probably penetrating new sports and being leaders in new sports and challenging in certain areas and changing the game in new sports. Yeah.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. Applying the model that we've done within the Olympics, we'll always be known as Olympic First Agency. And I love that. When you think of Olympians, actually, there's a wicked stat, which was 8 out of 10 people see them as one of the most inspirational athletes.
Oh, wow.
Even over kind of, I think it was UK Gov research piece, even over artists and footballers, because they're seen as everyday people achieving great things. Yeah. So I love that that's kind of our nucleus of who we are. But I want to impart the kind of values that we've built within the Olympic division across different other sports and go after it that way.
I love it. And then just as we round out like this part of the podcast, like to people who have listened and gotten to this point and are energized and are looking for their next step, like what would your key takeaway or piece of advice be from this conversation?
Next step, I would say there is an element of needing to think and plan. I think of course that's in place, but sometimes you've got to be bold, and failing is the biggest lessons that you can learn. And if people have been successful, if people say they've been successful and never failed, they're 100% lying.
It's all bollocks, yeah.
Yeah, it's rubbish. And you need to be brave enough to make mistakes or for things not to go to plan and to fail to learn from. And so I would say having the confidence and boldness to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, of course, if you've got a mortgage to pay, you know, if you've got a family to provide for, these are considerations you have to think about. But being bold and daring to be brave, and whatever comes from it, you're going to learn from and become better, is my best advice.
Yeah, you win or you learn.
Yeah.
And then, I had a guest on just before Christmas.
I've got to come up with some more slicker sayings. Like I listen to your pod and everyone's coming with these slick lines, and I'm just there like,
I know,
just go for it.
I'll just steal them. No. But yeah, I was going to say, I had a guest, Ruth, and she said, oh my God, what did she say? Yeah, no, she's like, you just have to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's these things might seem daunting, it might seem unattainable, but in order to achieve things that you never thought possible, you have to take actions that you wouldn't normally take. So
100%.
Hugo,
I'm bringing it back to I'm not to bring it back to one of my other clients, but I remember when I first signed Helen Glover, she had never lost in 54 races. From London to Rio, she'd never lost. And she had 3 kids under the age of 3, twins. And I remember meeting her and she was like, Hugo, I'm thinking about coming back. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. She was thinking, but my record's my record. And I was so proud to work with someone who generally, we actually worked with Mizuno, who titled this Dare to be Brave, because she had this amazing reputation behind her, but no woman in the British rowing team had ever come back as a mum, let alone with 3 kids under the age of 3. And I don't believe any female Team GB athlete has ever come back as a mum. And she was the pinnacle. She was the golden girl within rowing. And she said, I would love to do this to show to any mum coming back that whatever your passion, you can go for it. And I remember just almost being in a slipstream, being like, you have such a public persona of being just number one, and you don't mind. Just if I make the boat go faster and I don't make the team, at least I've helped the next mum with what I've done. I can give her advice on how to come back. And we're talking about the need for iron medicine because they row that it's easy to get rib splits, but she's breastfeeding, so she's iron deficient. All these learnings. And when she made the boat to go to Tokyo, it's the first mum to do it, I was just amazed. I literally was like, wow. And for us, we're like, oh my God, what are my friends going to think if I go and do this and it doesn't work? Yeah. She's got the whole world on her.
Pales in comparison.
Mental. I just love that.
I love it. Hugo, this has been sick. Are you ready for the quick fire round?
Yes, let's do it. Bio's the next signing.
Let's go. Favourite Olympic event to watch?
I'll say the relay swim, just because of the time in Paris. Epic in that stadium.
Manage a difficult global icon or an easygoing, lesser-known athlete?
Easygoing, lesser-known athlete.
Lunch with a sports brand CEO or the IOC head?
CEO. You can make a difference with them a lot quicker.
Have unbeatable negotiation skills or flawless talent scouting abilities?
Flawless talent scouting abilities, because negotiation's great, but quick fire. Quick fire. Go shoot.
Have the power to prevent any scandal or resolve any contract dispute?
Resolve any contract dispute.
Boost the athlete's social media or guarantee positive press coverage?
Boost social media.
And finally, your dream dinner guest?
I'll be honest, my wife. It's gonna be cringy. She didn't tell me to say this. I'm not really that blown away by, all these big names. And I work in sport, but I 100% all day.
My wife.
Yeah, my wife. It's cringy.
I love it.
I just when you look at a Tiger Woods and what they've done, it's wicked and epic. But I'm not that type of person who's massively starstruck or wants to be like, I'm in the room with that person. I am massively a home person. So,
Hugo, as it has been this whole conversation, I feel like we've really gotten to know the real Hugo. We've gotten to learn about like the origins of the company, and I feel like, yeah, to anybody who's looking to break into the industry or set out their agency, you've given like so many nuggets of thank you.
Pleasure.
We do have a closing tradition on this podcast.
Go on.
With everything that you've been through and knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self, and would you still be doing the same thing?
I'd definitely be doing the same thing. Whether you externally communicate it or internally communicate it, there are low moments. So just reinforcing that everything is going to be okay is always what I'd say. That'd be my advice.
I love it. Hugo, where can people find you, learn more about Ignite?
Yeah, we've got our website, ignite-sports.co.uk, going through a rebrand. So I'll check up and see if we're in the right place. On Instagram as well. Check out all our athletes and what we're going to be doing over the next 4 years. Tune back in a year when we do the signing of bio to the agency.
Okay, there we go.
Let's see what comes in there. But no, I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on.
This has been such a great conversation. And to the listener, if you've gotten to this point, you know what to do. Please like, please share, please comment. Please let us know who you want to hear from next. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to keep doing this. 2025, we're going to the moon and back. Hugo's going to sign me. It's a big year for all involved. And guys, with that, this has been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Now go and take some action.